Right, grateful to have everyone. Thanks for having you here. Welcome to see you all again. This April was a bit warmer. These warmer temperatures and dry conditions really built up around the 16th to the 24th of April. And that's when Phoenix Sky Harbor had their first 100-degree day of the year. That happened on April 21st. And then Phoenix reached 102 degrees on the 22nd. Tucson had their first 95-degree day of the year on April 22nd. And on average, that's about average for Tucson. Tucson usually has their 94-degree average temperature around April 24th. April 24th, Phoenix reaches 100 degrees or high, usually around May 2nd. So the precipitation wasn't so bad, although April starts the three driest climatologically months in Arizona. Most of central and southern counties experienced above normal precipitation this past April. Maricopa and Cochise counties both had their wettest April in 20 years. That's since 2004. This was There was even measurable snow at the end of April in both the Little Colorado Basin and the Verde Basin. So that's a good thing. I'm grateful for the Swiftwater training that happens every year with many agencies around the state. Of course, the most important thing is to not enter running water. That turn around, don't drown thing is really important because statistically, about 4 people drown every year in Arizona. This rescue from April 1st happened because of the wet system. It started late March and into early April. A lot of precipitation records were broken on April 1st across the state. Even a cold air funnel, which is not extremely rare, was seen in Maricopa County during that system. So another cold system at the end of April dropped measurable snow at Belmont and Flagstaff. And you can see that last impact on these charts of snow water equivalent. If you look at the Verde Basin and the Little Colorado Basins, the very, very end of that black line show the little tag right through there, and that's that precipitation that we received at the end of April. Maximum snow amounts happen in February for Salt and Verde Basins, but the maximum for the Little Colorado Basin happened at the end of March. Snowmelt ended in the Salt Basin on April 22nd. All in all, it wasn't a bad snow year, about average. So then looking at the last 7 months, we're 7 months into water year 2024, and statewide precipitation has been a bit above average. The bigger issue, though, is how hot it's been across the state. When we measure long-term drought in Arizona, we also take into account temperature because a hotter temperature is a thirstier atmosphere. Those hotter temperatures play a role in our long-term drought. And then overall, statewide precipitation has been 6.86 inches, and that's from October to April. That's the water year. A water year is how we measure water in the United States, and it runs from October 1st to September 30th. Compared to last year this time, Arizona was much wetter last year. Last winter helped the water year 2023 move to about average. When we look at what happened last water year, we had a really wet winter and a very dry summer. Statistically, Arizona's monsoon adds about half of the water year precipitation, and that's for central and northern counties. In the southern counties, the monsoon can add 2/3 to 3/4 of the water year precipitation. We'll have to wait and see what we get this summer, though. So when we're looking at the precipitation, that was January to April was the 23rd wettest January to April on record. So even though it was warmer, a bit more moisture allowed that extreme short-term drought to be removed from the state. The extreme short-term drought is that red color that you see showing up. There it is 3 months ago on our short-term drought map. Compared to last year this time, you can see that short-term drought still persists in many parts of the state. Our guest speaker is going to provide some more impacts from our short-term drought. And here we are with looking at our 8 to 14 day outlook. So we're a bit cooler this May so far, a bit cooler than we were last year, but actually last May was a bit wetter than we are right now. You can see the temperature the rest of May looks like we might be cooler. So we'll take that. We'll take whatever we can get, either cooler temperatures, more precipitation, or both. And then looking at our seasonal temperature outlook and seasonal precipitation outlook, this kind of starts looking at what happens in our monsoon season. So it really doesn't give us a good sense yet as to what we can expect for our monsoon. You can see that the expectation is to still be warmer and possibly drier. We'll have to see equal chances of being wetter or drier at this point. We'll start to know a little bit more as we get closer. One of those things to take into account is what's going on with our El Nino, La Nina kind of structure. So with La Nina coming into the picture, it's possible it might make summer a bit drier, but really there's no guarantee with summer activity and El Nino or La Nina in Arizona. Statistical relationships are a bit stronger in the winter in Arizona when we have our El Nino or La Nina kind of events. So we'll see what happens, but we're moving into a La Nina. And then I hope everyone can join me next month. We have Mike Crimmins coming in for the webinar to talk about monsoon 2024. And so really one of the considerations when we're looking at what may happen with our monsoon activity is how wet it is in Texas and the Great Basin. And that's what we're looking at right now. And it's been really wet there. It's wetter in those locations. And so then our monsoon tends to be less active when we have those wet conditions in the spring in Texas and the Great Basin. Been a lot of flooding there. So I invite everyone to join us on June 20th, and we can talk about these ins and outs of what we might expect for the monsoon this year. So I appreciate everyone's time. Our speaker will be talking next. Tiffany Davila will be talking about what's going on, the expectations for Arizona wildland fire outlook. She's the public affairs officer for the Arizona Department of Forestry and Fire Management. We've worked together before. We're going to continue working together, but this is the first time we have her here on our webinar, so we're very grateful for that. I'm going to go ahead and stop share, and I'll let you come on in, Tiffany.
Thank you very much. Let me get this going here. And okay, can everybody see that? Just want to make sure I hit the right screen.
I can see where it says notes, and I can see your screen as well. So if you're okay with just leaving
Oh
it
yeah, that's fine. Unless it's distracting.
Not to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we're going to be talking today about the wildland fire outlook for this year. A lot of the slides that Erin presented really reflect on what our outlook is going to be, and then actually what the activity is going to look like as we move forward over the next couple of weeks and into the summer months. So everything kind of goes hand in hand: the drought, the precipitation, what our winter was like last year, what our monsoon will look like here in the next couple of months. So we're going to start with the trends in fire activity. The human-caused fires typically are more prevalent in the spring, coinciding with drier and windier conditions. That is true this year. We're seeing a lot of, I think we've had about over 300 fires already. I think only 3 or 4 of those were due to lightning strikes. And I'll get more into that as we proceed with the presentation. As we transition into the summer months and moving into our monsoon season, that's kind of when we see that shift, and we get more of those fires started by lightning strikes as the monsoon storms roll in. Last year, almost 1,900 fires burned nearly 190,000 acres of state, federal, and tribal lands. All of those fires, about 71% were human caused. And that's normally what we see every year. About 70 to 80% of our fires annually across the state, again, on all land jurisdictions, are started by people. And then, as I mentioned, lightning caused fires are more prevalent as we really get into the heart of our monsoon season when those storms start rolling in. When we start seeing the problem is when we're getting monsoons with no precipitation. We're really just seeing the lightning, the dry monsoon storms, where it's just lightning, no precipitation to back it up. That's when our crews stay busy and we don't really see an end to our fire season. If our monsoons come in hot and heavy, we're able to put an end to fire season pretty quick. But when we don't get a lot of the precipitation like we saw last year, our fire season can extend into August and September. And then for us, the state, our jurisdiction is private and state trust land. So we see a lot of private human-caused fires on private property. So we get a lot of mechanical usage, escaped debris burns, people that are welding, they're grinding, they're doing some type of outdoor activity, and starting a fire. We're really seeing a huge spike in our fire activity right now in Pinal County. This is what's happening. We're getting a lot of people going outdoors. They're working. They're doing things they may have done in the past that they were able to do successfully. But this year in Western Pinal, there's an abnormal grass load in that area, catching residents off guard. So we're really seeing a spike in our activity in that portion of Pinal County. And then last year, 26% of our fires were along the roadside. So again, another issue that we have, and not just the state, but our federal and tribal partners also, is those roadside fires, usually started by dragging trailer chains, tire blowouts, or things of that nature. So for the outlook this year, as we just discussed in the previous presentation, the drought really does make an impact when it comes to the outlook for our fire season. The drought, precipitation, what the upcoming forecast is going to look like, the fuel moisture, all of those things play a role in our fire outlook and our fire activity and behavior. So for this year, we have the potential for higher than normal fire activity south of the Mogollon, across the Tonto, throughout the Sonoran Desert landscapes, into central Arizona, and down into southern Arizona, primarily within the Cochise County, Pima County areas. We're already starting to see that trend now. We've had multiple fires on the Tonto. We had some activity up by Crown King the other day. And of course, we're seeing activity in Pinal County. So that's the potential for higher than normal fire activity this year in those areas. For June, normal to warm temperatures. Last June, we had cooler temperatures. We had cooler temperatures leading up into June. We had a lot of moisture last year. So what that did is it really delayed the start to our fire season. We didn't see our activity pick up until end of June, when normally we're already really into that heart of our fire season at that point. But that's not what we're going to see this year. We'll see kind of the normal start. We are starting to see our fire activity increase. We're only going to get busier as our temperatures get hotter and these conditions stay dry. And then as far as the monsoon goes, again, you know, there's so many different discussions as to what it could look like. And when we were talking to our staff and our fire behavior analysts, the monsoon arrival that could be delayed with near normal moisture, again, that could push our fire activity out because we're not seeing excessive we're not seeing excessive moisture. We're not seeing the increase in relative humidity. All of that is what we would need to help kind of put an end to fire season. But again, it's still too early to tell. We've got a couple weeks still to figure out exactly what the monsoon has in store for the state. So for 2024, again, this is our outlook for this month, May 7th, 2024, as compared to last year. So we were in pretty better shape last year. Again, that's why we saw the delay to our fire season and our fire activity, because of the moisture that we had accumulated across the state over the last couple of years, coupled with our cooler temperatures into June. So we were able to our fire season was delayed by about 30 days. So again, we have that potential. You can see where the moderate drought is for us this month. That's kind of the area we're looking at. And then the area that has the severe drought, Cochise County, is where we could have the potential for high fire activity this year. So for us, for May, June, and July, you can see again, May showing central Arizona down into the southeastern part of the state, Maricopa, Yavapai, Gila, and then Cochise. And then June's pretty similar. And then it shows July where we're just going to have part of that eastern portion of the state where we could have that potential for higher fire activity. Again, all of this changes as we move through the next couple of weeks and the weather changes and what those outlooks, are in store, lay awake for us. So again, with this year, we have above average fuel loading in some areas. We have more than 200% of fine fuel on the ground. So we really do have that heavy grass load. Aravaipa Canyon, down into the Catalinas and across Cochise County. Again, that's where we may have the potential for higher than normal fire activity. High country, as per usual, it's still pretty wet. The vegetation up there holds that moisture a lot longer. So we really don't see fire activity increase up in the northern part of the state until about mid to end of June. Snowpack is melting quickly, but Flagstaff did have some snow, I believe, last week. So that is still helping. We're not really seeing a lot of activity up there yet, but we'll get there over the next couple of weeks as conditions dry out up there and they get to see an increase in their temperatures also. Let's see. So for us this year so far, year to date, and I pulled these numbers as of yesterday. So we've already had 356 fires that have burned almost 15,000 acres. Now, those numbers don't include the wolf fire. So the wolf fire was out near Clintswell. It started out there and they ended up managing that fire for forest benefit. So they put a lot of fire on the ground themselves and took that fire from 5 to 10 acres to 10,000 acres by managing that fire as part of their Healthy Forest initiative. So that 10,000 acres isn't in these numbers. So these are strictly fires that we've had, not managed fires. So you can see the difference in this year versus last year. We've almost doubled the amount of acres burned. Again, that's just due to the excess fuel in parts of the state. And then we've had an increase in the number of fires this year. Last year, 339, this year, 356. And these numbers reflect all jurisdictions. So it's not just state, it includes state, our federal lands, which would be the Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, and then our tribal agencies also. And then for activity from the past few years, in all of 2023, we had 1,837 wildfires, 188,000 acres burned. 71% of our fires last year were human caused, as compared to 2022, where we had 1,248 wildfires, 145,000 acres burned. So the last couple of years, yes, we've had a slower fire seasons compared to the prior years, where 2020, we had the bushfire. 2021, we had the Telegraph and Mescal fires outside of Globe. So we have seen our fire activity over the last couple of years kind of slow down from the previous years. Last year, we had no type 1 incidents in the state, meaning we were able to catch everything at manageable levels and keep them at a type 3 level. It could be a type 3 team from the agency, a local type 3 team. We have a few type 3 teams in the state, but nothing severe that required a type 1 incident management team. That is the highest complexity incident management team. And they have multiple teams in the Southwest to come in, take over, and manage a fire. But we did not have any type 1s. I think we had one type 2 incident last year, and that was the Diamond Fire on the Tonto National Forest. So for us, we have access to multiple platforms when it comes to resources. We have access to not only our internal resources, we've got engines staged across the state. We have 5 districts. So we have engines at all of those districts. We have hand crews that can come out of those districts. And then we also cooperate with our local fire departments and our fire districts. So the state, not just us, but our federal partners also, we have access to 260 fire districts and departments through cooperative agreements. And that allows us access to 2,500 additional wildland firefighters. We also partner with the Department of Corrections. We have 12 DOC hand crews that work throughout the state. They don't just help fight fire, but they also do project work in the off season for us. Then we have a Type 2IA, an initial attack crew, that really was formed under Governor Ducey as part of his post-rehabilitation plans. So we were able to gather inmates that were released that had qualifications that were either on the DOC crews during their time in prison. They came out with qualifications and they were able to get full-time work with the state of Arizona. So we also have that crew. And again, we also have access to our federal partners, their resources, their equipment, and their helicopters. We have single engine air tankers and an air attack platform, but we partner with the Forest Service and the BLM for use of their equipment also, whether that's heavy air tankers, the very large air tanker, and then also the large air tankers. We all really have to work together. I know this sounds, kind of cheesy, but wildfire truly knows no boundaries. We could have a fire that started on state and the next day it's moved on to the Bureau of Land Management or onto the TANO. So we all have to work together to collaborate and ensure success when our goal is public and firefighter safety. So we really do have to work together. We train together, we conduct project work together on off season. So we collaborate very well with our federal and tribal partners. Excuse me. And then we also have access to DPS's helicopter if we need it. And that's really all I have. If anybody had any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer anything maybe I didn't address or you wanted clarification on.
Thank you very much. Yes, if anyone has any questions, you can go ahead and put those in chat, but I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. So I appreciate your time on doing that. Let me see if I can get this to stop recording.